Hi, Caleb with Brownells here, and today we're going to be covering part 3 of the How to Paint Your Gun series featuring Aluma-Hyde, and now we're actually going to start painting stuff. I know it's kind of weird, we're talking about a painting series. You got to get all the way to episode 3 before you actually start like putting paint on stuff, but I promise all the information before this was good information. If you missed it, go back and watch it. It's extremely important. You know, we talked about what Aluma-Hyde is, why you would choose it, you know, is it the right finish for you? We talked about common mistakes whenever you run into whenever you're applying. We talked about, you know, proper preparation, which is everything in any kind of finish you're doing. And now we're talking about how to paint it. All right, so there's the long-winded intro. So let's talk about some specifics here. All right. So when I'm spraying my workpiece, I don't typically spray it while it's hanging. I'll pick it up, hold it. That way I can manipulate it how I want to. I'm going to be using both hands here, and I'll just pop that lid off. And this can is used. It's of course it is. It's wolf gray. It's the best color in the world, so it's going to be pretty heavily used. All right, and when I'm spraying, I'm just going to mock it up. I'm not going to spray yet. I'm not wearing a respirator. I want you to be able to hear what I'm saying. I'm going to talk about it, then I'll demonstrate it. All right, so I'm going to be using both hands here to kind of get the right angles I need. And when I start spraying, I'm not going to spray these big flats first, right? What I'm going to spray first is all the hard to reach areas. So that's what you want to get to first. So like this pick rail here, I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna come in at an angle at the top here so I can get this side of the pick rail. Then I'm gonna do the opposite side. So I'm gonna angle my can and just kind of work both pieces together here so that I get the other side of that pick rail. All right, and all these vent holes here, I'm basically gonna do the same thing. All right, but I'll probably do the pick rail, then come on to something else and let that pick rail dry just a little bit. Before I throw another coat right up on there, because we're using a spray can, right? We're not using an airbrush. We gotta be a little bit more careful about how we spray because we can't fine tune it like we can an airbrush. All right. So I'm gonna get all those inside areas first, and honestly, this is probably one of the hardest things to spray because of all the holes and all the inside we got to get to. So while keeping my spray can, I'm going to be probably about 5 to 6 inches away from the workpiece. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my spray. This is very important. I'm going to start off of the workpiece and end off of the workpiece. All right. If you start or end on the workpiece, you have an extremely high chance of getting overspray, and then that's when you get a run. All right. So always start off and finish off. All right. Hard to reach areas first, okay? And another thing I see people do wrong here, and I should probably be wearing size large gloves, but I went down a size. I'm wearing mediums. The gloves are tight, and that's what I want. I see a lot of people complain, not a lot of people, but I do see people complain when they're spraying Aluma-Hyde, like it's coming out in clumps. They're getting big clumps that go onto the workpiece. And it's because their glove, they're wearing, you know, big saggy gloves. I'll try to replicate it here. And it's hanging over their spray nozzle. So it's hitting their glove and then going onto the workpiece. So it's going on in globs. That's not an Aluma-Hyde problem. That's a fat finger glove problem. All right, so just running back through it real quick here. Spray 5 to 6 inches. Never start or stop on the workpiece. And get all the hard to reach areas first, and then finish up with your flats that are easy to get. Now, the reason we get all those hard to reach areas first is to prevent overspraying and runs. So if for example I did all the flats first, now I have wet paint on those flats, right? So when I'm trying to get into those hard to reach areas, I'm overspraying even more onto those flats because you can't avoid it, and then you're overspraying. All right, now another big question here is going to be, what the heck do I do about the inside of the handguard? Whenever you're spraying through here, you're going to get most of the inside, but what you can do And what I'll probably end up doing here is I'll hang it and I'll just kind of pick it up and I'll spray into it some. I'm not going to try and get all the inside of the handguard. There's no reason for that. If you were working with bare aluminum, that'd be a different story. You'd want to get as much coverage as you can. And to do that, you basically just have to spray in there, trying not to get overspray on the ends here. But most of the inside will get covered while you're spraying, so don't worry about it. Don't sweat it. All right, so same thing with the grip. Grip's a lot easier. We're just gonna, there's really no hard to reach areas. The only hard to reach area on here, whenever I start spraying this grip, I'm gonna spray these angles first. So I'm gonna get this angle in the back here. I'm gonna get this front, I'm gonna get this bottom, and then I'm just gonna spray the whole grip, go from there. All right. Now, if you plan on doing multiple colors or multiple coats, I never do multiple coats, honestly. I just do one coat. And for this handguard, you know, if there's an area you missed and you don't want to respray the whole thing, you just want to touch up that one spot. This is very important to remember. So, Aluma-Hyde II will adhere to itself as long as you spray your additional coats either within 30 minutes of applying your first coat or after it's fully cured. Those are the only two times you can spray Aluma-Hyde onto Aluma-Hyde, okay? So if, let's say for example, I sprayed it and then I come back an hour later or 2 hours later, you know, whatever, and spray it again, because of science and chemicals and things I don't understand, it's not going to adhere properly. So, like I said, only after it's fully cured, which the cure time for Aluma-Hyde II, we'll go over this again later when we talk about, you know, post-spraying stuff. The cure time for Aluma-Hyde II could be 10 to 14 days if you're air curing it. You can speed cure it in an oven, and I'll go over that once we're done. Don't worry about it. But just real quick, if you're curious, the time for that, you know, about 3.5 hours in an oven at 195 will be just fine. So, all right, with all that being said, I'm going to put on a respirator. I'm not going to be talking. I'm just going to be spraying, and I'll demonstrate everything we just talked about. All right, let's get after it. All right, so before we get started, I just almost missed it. I want to mention one more thing. Obviously, this one's used, so it's dirty, but whenever you get your Aluma-Hyde spray nozzle, this little black piece in the middle here, you can rotate that to change the way your spray comes out, right? So when you get it and you spray, it's going to be a vertical pattern, all right? Which is, I think, you know, for the way I spray, that's terrible. I like it to be horizontal, because, like, for example, when I'm spraying this, I'm going to be coming down through those pick rails. I want a horizontal spread as I come down. A vertical spread isn't going to help me a ton, right? It's good for some cases, but not for most. So all you got to do is grab it, rotate it 90 degrees, and I got some pliers here. Now what you want to avoid when you're doing this is spraying yourself in the face. So I'll remove the nozzle and just rotate her 90 degrees here. And this one has some dried Aluma-Hyde on it, so it's a little more stubborn. Almost there. There we go. All right, so now we're going to be spraying a horizontal pattern, which is what we want. All right, let's get started. All right, so just some notes there. I was able to don and doff the respirator without messing up my hair, so that's good. It's a big plus there. That thing you saw me do at the end where I flipped the can upside down and I held the nozzle down until just nothing came out but air. I was clearing that tube. That's what you want to do every time you're done painting with your can. And I do that with everything, not just Aluma-Hyde II. All my rattle can stuff, flip it upside down, clear it, and then set it down. Don't try and wipe off the nozzle or anything. Once you cleared it, just clear it. We can clean this nozzle later by just dropping it in some acetone. But it's important, just don't wipe the nozzle because you'll just get Aluma-Hyde inside the actual spray hole and clog it up. All right, so everything came out really good there. No runs, no oversprays, no dry sprays from being too far away. We just started off the workpiece, sprayed, came off the workpiece, and got all those hard to reach areas first, which is really hard to do here. If you look inside the handguard, looking through, you can still see a little bit of black on the inside, which, like I said, that's no big deal. We got most of it covered. A lot of what I'm seeing, it might even just be shadow, but everything came out good. It's a little shiny now. It'll be matte when it dries. Just let it do its thing. All right, so let's talk about curing. So as I mentioned before, this stuff needs to hang, or actually let's back up. Let's talk about, spraying. I'm spraying inside here. You can absolutely spray outside, no big deal. Typically you want it to be, 70 to 80 or 90 degrees whenever you're spraying this stuff. Don't spray it outside when it's too cold. If you need to spray something and it's super cold outside, it's just going to be more headache because it's not going to apply correctly. It's not going to cure correctly. Just make sure you're spraying at the proper temperatures. It's 70 to 90 degrees. There you go. The amount of time it takes to dry is definitely going to depend on humidity. So, like anything else that goes on wet, right? This will probably be dry to the touch within the next hour for sure. 30 minutes, we'll actually probably be able to actually handle it. It'll be dry enough. But I'm just going to let it hang. What we're going to do is speed cure everything. If you want to speed cure Aluma-Hyde II, 195 degrees, 3.5 hours in the oven, and you're done. You don't need to wait the 10 to 14 day thing. Now, I will say this. If you cure this stuff in the oven in your house, it will give off fumes as it's curing, and it sucks, all right? So your wife's going to be pissed. It's going to be a whole thing. Just be mindful. We have a separate oven, so we're using a Veronese curing oven, which is made for spray-on finishes. Has a thermometer on it. That's what we're going to be using. Like I said, it's made specifically for this. If you can get on whatever Facebook Marketplace and just buy a cheap whatever oven, that's perfectly fine. You can even make an oven out of bluing tanks and stuff. Just as long as you have heat and a thermometer to regulate what's going on, then you're good. All right. So we're going to be hanging these parts in the oven. We're going to crank it up. We're going to cure it. We'll be good to go. And I will say this, some people get a little crazy about it. It doesn't have to be exactly 195 degrees for exactly 3.5 hours, all right? Just get it close to that and you'll be cured pretty good. So once you're done curing and the parts are cooled, or if you waited the 10 to 14 day, whatever, and your parts are good, then you can go ahead and reassemble everything. And another thing you can do here is if you want to do a camo pattern, but you need your parts to match up, you can reassemble the gun. Don't lubricate anything. Reassemble it, spray your camo pattern, or whatever pattern you want to do, then let it cure. You can take everything back apart to lubricate. Like, for example, I'm probably not going to grease my barrel nut whenever I put it on. I'm just going to put it on loose, put my handguard on, spray my camo pattern, take off my handguard, take off my barrel nut, and then reassemble everything properly once everything's cured. And in a future version of this where we do camo patterns, I'll show you exactly what I do for that. All right, so that is the basics of spraying Aluma-Hyde II. All right, those are common issues you'll run into, different things like that. So that's all there is to it. Now, like I mentioned in future episodes, we're going to be talking about camo patterns, different things like that. We're going to get super Bob Ross with it. It's going to be awesome. There's going to be, I would like to say there's no mistakes, only like happy little accidents, but unfortunately with the Aluma-Hyde II, there's some mistakes. So it won't be full Bob Ross, but we'll be as close as we can. All right, so make sure you go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. Hit that notification bell for the future episodes of this. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.